Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Impact review for the 24th of November 2020. Not a bad show, not a great show. Honestly, it feels like Impact in some ways is in a hold pattern, maybe for the end of the year, maybe for other things. By the way, Bob Ryder, who works for Impact, has passed away. Condolences to his friends and family. He was dealing with, I believe, cancer. I'm not 100% sure on that. I know he had some long term health problems and passed away within the past day or so. So, condolences to those who love and are concerned about him. We open with Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz defeating the Sea Stars in the first round knockout tag team championship tournament. Not a fan of the concept of them having women's belts in the tag division. I think it's overkill. I don't think it's necessary. Ashley Vox, my exposure to her was through the NWA, and uh, Demi Echo, and I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly, is new for me. I had not seen her before. This is the Sea Stars' first um, match on Impact together as a team. Not sure I like the name. Anyway, match sees Echo with some shots early, but Vox and Steel's tag in. Vox is cut off early, separates from her corner. Hogan and Steel's work together quite well. I actually like the team of Hogan and Steel's a lot. They take over for a couple of minutes. Uh, Echo gets the hot tag. Sea Stars get some near falls in. Steels manages to take Vox up to the outside, making an opening for some double team, swinging neckbreaker and a pin. Uh, both teams look reasonable here. Hogan and Steels advance to the semifinals. They'll face the winner of Diana Perrazzo and Kimberly versus Taya and Rosemary. Interesting team there. Again, I mean, if you've only got 8 teams in your tournament, do you really have enough depth that you need a tag team championship for the women here? Anyway, backstage, Jordana Grace and Jazz of ECW fame. Jazz is announced as Grace's partner for the match. Giamilla approached Jazz about teaming with Grace. Jazz says she wanted to end her career as an Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champion. Josh Matthews and Matt Striker run down the card. Striker is here because Madison Rayne is part of the Wrestlers Court that they're running. Um, so then we go to the rundown of the women's tag brackets. Ethan Page and Josh Alexander talk about Doc Gallows being injured and having to be gone for a month and a half. Alexander's mad because it meant he couldn't challenge the title for the titles until then. Um, and then we get the first part of Wrestler's Court. Madison Rayne is representing Swinger. D'Lo Brown is representing the boys, quote, quote. Rayne objects, and Dreamer switches to being the counsel for the boys, and Brown ends up being the judge. Rayne argues that Swinger is too dumb to carry out an elaborate plan, and that he couldn't have shot Bravo. Dreamer brings up that the gun was found in the fanny pack of Swinger. Rohit Raju comes out for the Defeat Rohit challenge. He puts himself over in a promo, and Suicide comes out, accepts the challenge. Rohit says that he knew who was under the mask and that it was a trick so he could take the title off him for the challenge. Anyway, Crazy Steve defeats X Division champion Rohit Raju in a non-title match. D'Amore and TJP are. We believe that TJP is under the mask. Story of the match is pretty basic. Rahit keeps going for the mask. The Suicide Arsenal is similar to what TJP does. That's the old, yay, surprising guy under the mask. Um, it's Crazy Steve under the mask in the end, and Raju does manage to get the mask off to prove this, and TJP manages to come down the aisle, causing the distraction and the win for Crazy Steve. Crazy Steve might get a title shot soon, and that could open the door too to Suicide being the one that gets the win. So maybe there's something to TJP under the Suicide mask winning there. Who knows? And honestly, who cares? I don't like over gimmicked championship type stuff like this. Backstage, Sami Callihan tries to get Ken Shamrock ready for the championship match tonight with Rich Swann. Moose approaches and says they're fighting for the second most important title in the company. Moose says it's unfortunate that it wasn't him. Facing Rich Swann and reminds Shamrock that once he wins, he'll come for him and remind him what happened when Moose and Shamrock fought last year. I wasn't watching last year, so I don't I remember, but I assume that means that Moose beat Shamrock pretty handily. Tennille Dashwood and Caleb with a K are taking some photographs backstage with Alicia Edwards. Approaching Dashwood about tagging again, Dashwood tells her to take the hint. Edwards keeps insisting and begging for the attention she wants. Kimberly with Deanna Purrazzo defeats Killer Kelly with Renee Michelle. Killer Kelly and Renee Michelle's debuts were here. They joined for the Tag Team Championship tournament. Purrazzo and Lee are also feuding with Su Yung. Su Yung made trouble for them last week, as we recall. Match is fine, but very short. Basically, action. Both get spots in. Some mat wrestling early. Pins and reversals. Some submission stuff. And then Lee gets a win with a Swanton Bomb. Again, didn't have enough time to really develop anything. Susie comes out and told Purrazzo and Lee that it would hurt her friends, so instead the friends were going to attack them, and they do a decent edit to make it appear that Susie's on the ramp while Su Yung attacked in the ring. Good little deal, and Purrazzo and Lee run away. Gia Miller interviews Motor City Machine Guns. Alex Shelley says he's cleared to return to action, and they'll be going after Triple XL, the North, and the Good Brothers. At least there's some depth to the tag division. This is good. Rich Swann and Willie Mack meet backstage. Swann said he's sorry he couldn't help Mack with Moose. That sounds really interesting, like a dessert. A Mac and Moose. Or maybe it's an alcoholic beverage. Anyway, so then Chris Bay comes out and tries to talk to Swann into a title match. Calls Mac a loser, which makes both men defensive and kick him out of the room. Swoggle with Carl Anderson defeats Ethan Page with Josh Alexander. I assume losing to Swoggle means that Page is leaving the company pretty soon. Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows tell Page that if he wanted another title match, then he'd have to defeat someone of their choosing. And they hinted Page would be facing someone phenomenal. This person wasn't AJ Styles, but Swoggle dressed like AJ Styles, and it is the old AJ Styles theme that was used, kind of a comedy thing. Page not taking Swoggle seriously leads to his demise. Swoggle takes advantage and gets some hits in early. Alexander cuts off Swoggle, and that allowed Page to regain control. He works on Swoggle for a bit. Anderson distracts Page, allowing Swoggle to schoolboy Page to score an upset win. Page seemed to be having a mental breakdown after the match. Swinger is being interrogated. Swinger makes the case that Dreamer and himself went way back, and Dreamer knew as much about Swinger as as is needed. He may cheat, but he wouldn't shoot somebody. Dreamer calls up Rosemary, who explained she never loved Bravo, but she wanted his virgin blood. Wow. Bravo returns and confronts Rosemary about being used. Bravo says he knew who shot him, and it was revealed that it was Larry D's alter ego, Lawrence D, and that he'd done it only out of jealousy. They basically threw away the storyline. This is horrible, but it's almost a poke at like soap opera storytelling, so I can get kind of where they're going. Falaba and Davari have a match that's less than 60 seconds. Joe Doring and Eric Young run down, take out both men going in. Young starts cutting a promo. Rhino comes in, attacks them, and but Rhino gets laid out for trying to help. Young ends up with a promo saying that the world belongs to them. Who they are, we don't know. Backstage, TJP approaches Crazy Steve and Swoggle for help. Brian Myers walks up and made fun of everyone in the segment. Perazzo and Kimberly approached James Mitchell about dealing with Sue Young. Mitchell said he'd help for a price, but didn't go into the details of what that price might be. Matthews and Stryker run down next week's card, which includes Triple XL versus Motor City's Machine Gun, Raju defending the title against Crazy Steve, Killer Kelly and Renee Michelle versus Jordana Grace and Jazz from the Knockout Tag Team Championship Tournament, and Willie Mack versus Chris Bay. At least they're consistent with building their stories, even if they're not as compelling as they once were. Impact World Champion Rich Swann defeats Ken Shamrock with Sami Callihan to retain the title. Sami is out, and he's been basically mentally manipulating Shamrock for months. Callihan and Shamrock set their sights on Swann, and they've attacked him several times leading up to the match. Callihan interjects himself into the match in the opening minutes and wound up being ejected from ringside. Shamrock's attack on Swann gains him control, immediately going after Swann's bad leg. Smart by the former MMA World Champion. Shamrock controls at least 50 to 60% of the match, and he goes from attacking the legs to the neck, and then he switches back to the legs again, kind of keeping a varied offense. Swann uses his speed, makes a comeback, but Shamrock always comes up with decent counters and get into submissions. Swann, though, is competitive and escapes all the submissions. In the end, Shamrock has the ankle lock on. Swann rolls Shamrock out and gets a win. And post-match, Shamrock attacks the referee. Callihan comes out, hits Swann with the cactus special. He tees, attacking Swann with the bat. Eddie Edwards comes out. Isn't their feud going on a little too long now? Callihan and Shamrock take down Edwards, tie him to the ropes, and proceed to take out Edwards' eye again. D'Lo Brown and security come down. Shamrock takes them down, and Callihan and Shamrock are taken off of Edwards by security, and they go off the air. And that's where we're kind of going. That is the end of this week's program. Like I said, not a bad show, but also a completely skippable one if you have other things to be doing. Anyway, we'll be back with more right after this.